If you're a parent of a youth baseball player, this video is for you, because what looks good to the eye can still overload the arm if the timing is off. All right, I want you to watch this throw in slow motion first. No analyzing it yet. No numbers yet. This is a 10-year-old travel baseball pitcher, about 5'1", and the goal here is to let your eyes take the whole movement, how he moves, how he transfers energies, and how his body organizes itself through the throw. Because before we talk about mechanics, we need to understand the overall movement pattern. I'm leaving this space on purpose because this is how most parents and players watch mechanics, just visually. And that's important. But the problem is the eye misses what the body is actually doing when we don't anchor it to objective reference points. So now we are going to layer in measurable data to explain why this throw looks the way it does. Now, let's start layering in objective data. At knee lift, his knee height measure is 2 feet 6 inches. For his height, that places him in about 60 to 7% of his body height, which research shows is a normal range during the windup and stride phase. This tells me two things. One, he has adequate balance and control, and two, he's not overlifting and losing stability early. Why this matters is for coaches and trainers. Knee height influences timing, balance, and how early the pelvis can begin moving down the mound. Once we establish balance, the next question is what moves first? Here, where it gets interesting, lead hip movement. You can see the hips begin to lead the motion before the upper body commits. This matches what we want biomechanically, the lower half initiating the throw rather than the arms creating force on his own. Research consistently shows that effective hip lead reduces shoulder and elbow load by improving energy transfer. Now let's look at how the arm behaves while the lower body is doing its job. During the stride phase, notice that he does not show the ball. Ideally, we like to see the hand stay on top of the ball during this phase. But at this age, this pattern can actually be protective. It limits early shoulder rotation and reduces stress while strength and conditioning are still developing. For pitching coaches, this helps regulate timing. For strength coaches, it tells us the athlete isn't relying on passive shoulder range of motion to generate velocity. With the arm staying organized, we now evaluate how efficiently he moves down the mound. Stride length. Here measures 2 feet 9 inches. For reference, normal stride length is roughly 80 to 94% of the body height. Relative to his body height, this is appropriate, not overstriding and not too short. This tells me he's using the ground effectively without forcing length he doesn't yet own. Overstriding is a major contributor to a timing breakdown and arm stress in youth pitchers. Stride sets the table, but what happens at foot strike is where the joint loading really shows up. At foot strike, his lead knee flexion measures 27.5 degrees. Normal values at foot strike contact are typically 41 to 59 degrees. So this tells us he's landing a bit stiffer than ideal, but not too dangerously. So this is common in young athletes and gives us a clear area to develop over time. A stiffer lead leg can increase trunk and arm demand if not addressed gradually. Now let's check what the shoulder is doing at the exact moment. Now we're looking at the right shoulder abduction at foot strike, 97.5 degrees. Normal shoulder abduction at this phase ranges from 80 to 110 degrees. So this is right where we want it. It allows the arm to load efficiently and without placing excessive stress on the shoulder or elbow. With shoulder position established, elbow position becomes the next piece of the puzzle. Elbow flexion here measures 180.3 degrees. Typically, range of foot strike are 65 to 99 degrees, so he's slightly above the range. That tells me the arm may be working a bit harder relative to the body, and it's not uncommon at this. For trainers, it signals a need for improved shoulder and lower body contribution rather than cueing the arm. Now we move into the high stress portion of the throw, the moment of ball release. At ball release, shoulder external rotation measures 136.3 degrees at the right side. Elite level ranges often fall between 165 and 183 degrees, but those are not appropriate targets for a 10-year-old. What matters is he generates rotationally naturally and forcing range he hasn't earned. If rotational is limited, something else has to make up for it, usually the trunk or the arms. Forward trunk flexion at the ball release is 9 degrees. Normal values tend to be about 22 to 40 degrees. This tells us shrunk contributions is limited right now, which means a arm is likely absorbing more load. This becomes a key development focus on strength, coordination, and growth allowed. And finally, we look at how the front leg manages all the force. Leading knee flexion at ball release is 27.4 degrees. Typically ranges 30 to 56 degrees. So again, we see a slightly stiff front foot on the front side. The upside is that he's absorbing force rather than jamming into a locked knee. Another positive durability sign. How the body finishes tells us how well he handled everything before it. Watch the follow through. We want to see a balanced finish and a transition towards a fielding position. This indicates efficient deceleration and lower stress on the shoulder and elbow. Let's watch it again with all that in mind. This isn't about perfection. It's about identifying the strength, understanding limitations, and building a long-term development plan that protects the arm while improving performance. If you're a parent, player, pitching coach, or strength coach, and you've never seen mechanics explained with the age-relevant norms and objective data, this is exactly what we do. We don't rush development, we build pitchers the right way. I'm Alex Panel with the Panel Performance Group. Thanks for watching, and if you're interested, leave a comment below.